In voting for Vice President Harris, I assume that her public policy views are vastly different from my own. But I am indifferent in this election as to her policy views on any other issues than America's democracy, the Constitution, and the rule of law, as I believe all Americans should be. In the 2024 election for President of the United States, there are no more important issues for America, end quote. Joining me now is J. Michael Luttig. He has previously served on the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. He is one of the most respected legal minds in this nation. That's why days before January 6, 2021, the then Vice President Mike Pence sought his advice about what the Constitution says about the certification of the Electoral College votes, advice that helped the country avoid a constitutional crisis. Judge Luttig, thank you for being back on the show this morning.
Thank you, Ali. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Sir, you believe that the choice in the presidential race is clear, that Kamala Harris is fit for office. Donald Trump is not fit for office. Apparently, this is not clear to many Americans because the race shows a deadlock, according to the polls. So this is the last 10 days to convince people of what the issue is. Tell me what your best argument is right now.
Ali, I hope that Americans come to their senses over the course of the next 10 days and understand just what is at stake in this upcoming election, and that is America's democracy and the rule of law. Nothing more, but nothing less. The various policy positions, sundry policy positions that separate the two candidates in this election is of comparatively little significance to their respective views on American democracy and the rule of law. Ali, our democracy and rule of law are the constitutional pillars, the cornerstones of our constitutional republic. It's our democracy and the rule of law that have made America the envy of the world for almost 250 years. Donald Trump, over the past 4 years, beginning on January 6, 2021, has corrupted America's democracy and rule of law. The other two fundamental tenets of our Constitution and of our republic are the willingness of presidential aspirants to accept the will of the American people when they vote on Election Day, this year in 10 days. The other fundamental tenet is that every presidential candidate, every candidate for the office of the presidency must pledge to a peaceful transfer of power. Without the acceptance by the candidates of the will of the American people and their pledge to a peaceful transfer of power, America would have no democracy, Ali.
Judge, the preservation of democracy all through history, whether it's in America or in other countries, can come at some cost to the individual citizen. And look, I think this is an important message coming from a person like you, because some people have called you names. They've accused you of things for standing by your principles. And of course, it was a little less hot on January 4th and 5th of 2020 when you were considering 2021 when you were considering these things. But what is your advice to people who are struggling with, will they say I'm betraying my cause, my party, my conservative values in voting for Kamala Harris?
Well, the answer is obvious, Ali. They would not be betraying their cause or their political party. They would instead be putting their country, putting the United States of America before both their party and themselves. This is not a difficult decision for Americans, or at least it ought not be, though Republicans in particular They must decide whether they are willing to put their country, to put America above themselves and their political party. And they must be honest with themselves, finally. If they are unwilling to do so now, they will never do so. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. This is a decision that all of us must live with the rest of our lives. And as I said in my endorsement of the vice president, I do not want to live with the idea that I cast a vote in favor of Donald Trump in light of his corruption of America's democracy and the rule of law over the past 4 years. We must remember, and the Republicans dismiss this, but Donald Trump is being prosecuted by the United States of America for perhaps the gravest crimes that an incumbent president could commit. Is it really going to be the case that Americans will return to the White House that man who is being prosecuted by the United States for those grave crimes? I do not want to believe that that's possible, and I hope that it's not.
Judge, you have something in common with John Kelly. He's a military man. You're a man of the system of justice, both of which have tried not to be political. You have both spent your careers in institutions that typically try and stay out of politics. John Kelly's on-the-record interview with the New York Times about how Donald Trump meets the definition of a fascist is a watershed moment in this election. I want to ask you, on a personal level, did you wrestle with the idea that you standing up for your beliefs in country over party caused you to wade into the political sphere? Because I've known you for a while, and I don't think that was the most comfortable place for you in the beginning. Clearly, it now is like a well-worn-in slipper because you've had to, and you've become so well-known about it. But talk to me about that.
Well, first, Ali, let me say to the country that I have the greatest respect and admiration for General Kelly, as I do for General Milley. These two men served in the highest positions closest to the former president, and they've expressed their views about the former president and this upcoming election very recently. Now, as to myself, I have not, in my view, waded into politics at all. It just so happens that this election is about America's democracy, the Constitution, and the rule of law for the reasons that we all know. The fact that I've taken the positions that I have on those questions of law, if you will, has no bearing on politics. Now, at the end of the day, I did decide to endorse and vote for the vice president. But that was not, as you pointed out, because of her policy views. It was because of her positions on America's democracy, the Constitution, and the rule of law, in stark contrast to those of the former president. Look, Ali, the time's come for America to decide whether Donald Trump is fit to be president of the United States again. The question is not whether Vice President Kamala Harris is fit to be president. She is. The question is whether Donald Trump is fit, and he is not. When he was entrusted with the presidency before, he betrayed the nation.
Judge, good to see you. Thank you, sir. We always appreciate your wisdom and your being on with us. Judge J. Michael Luttig is a former federal judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the 4th District.